thank you very much to Abhishek for this challenge. Abhishek is from the Irish team at the Information Lab, and we really appreciate it when we get challenges created for us by other colleagues. So great to see. So we're dealing with a car dealership, so we can see that people can. Sorry, it's more like a website where people can sell their vehicles, and they're either private or dealerships that are going to be selling the vehicles through the site. There we go, set up the problem correctly now. So for our users' data, it's very unhelpful, but it's all contained in this very long single row, single field at the moment. So we need to split that out. There's a lot of good data in there. We want to get it all out as our individual users. So naturally we think of the split function here, and the automatic split is going to work really nicely for us. I'm just going to show you here. Sorry, if we do a comma for the separator and split off all the values, then it's going to do great. It's going to give us 150 changes in our changes pane there. And you can see that now we have a single user in our fields, which looks like it's working great. But if I scroll all the way to the right, I can see I've still got this final one here where I've still got quite a lot in there. So the limit of that split is actually 150 new fields. And so that's why that's happened. So what we need to do is just then split again. In the same way, that'll get us out another 150, and then split again on that final one. So it does get a bit difficult to keep track of, but yeah, that's the way that we have to do that basically. So I'm going to remove this step actually because I do all that splitting in this step here, and you can see that once I've done that and once I've got rid of any fields I don't need, I have 365 different fields as a result of that split. So then we've got a single user in each of these different fields, so we can then pivot those down so that we have then got our pivot one names and our pivot one values. So I was doing some playing around whilst I was trying to work out if I had all the values that I was expected to have, so that's why I'd done some changes that aren't relevant at all. This pivot one name should say something like split-1, split-2, that sort of thing for those users. So they're just showing the numbers. There we go. That's how that should be looking. Like I said, I was just playing around myself to check I had all the values that I needed earlier on. But this is the only field that we really care about, this users field. So we can get rid of that field that just tells us split 1, split 2, etc. Not very useful, and we can just rename this field to be user. Now we're given information that the first 7 characters are the user ID number. The end one is whether it's a private or a dealership user, and then when it's a dealership we see that we have these 3 characters in the middle, so in this example D50, and we want to also extract that. So our string calculations are going to really help us out here. So for the user ID, we're taking the left, so starting from that left-hand side, and we're taking the first 7 characters. For whether it is a dealership or private user, then we take the last character or the rightmost character. And then for the dealership ID in the middle, if it's a dealership, so if that private/dealership field is a D, then we take the middle and we start at character 8. So after that 7 character user ID, then the first character after that would be in space number 8, and we know that that is 3 characters long, so we just want to take those. That's the way that I chose to do it. I don't often use the mid function. I would often kind of resort to some regex, so it's always fun to try a different way of how you can solve the problem. And then I just got rid of that original user field, and I made sure this user ID was numeric. And then as we read the challenge, we realize we're only actually interested in dealerships, so we filter it to just be dealership. So where that private dealership is a D, and we exclude all those private users and just keep the dealerships. Now from the ads data, we take a look at that, and we can see a lot of information about the ad there. We know that anything that hasn't sold we want to filter out. So we go along to the sale date and we exclude all these nulls. I was a bit worried about doing that, so I checked for a particular registration, and I could see that the sale date is null in both cases if it hasn't sold, but what about if it sells? So I check another one, and I can see that if that registration number has been sold, then that sale date updates across all the rows where that advert has been published. So that's reassuring that we're not going to lose anything we don't want to. So we exclude those null sale dates from our data set. And then we're ready to join these two workflows together on those user IDs. And we see that we do lose quite a lot of information there. That's probably a lot of our private customers or private users that are being lost, and that's okay. And these ones that we're losing from the dealership user IDs, that's probably ones that haven't sold anyway, and so that's okay as well. Next up, we need to work out when was the ad first posted. So we need to look at that publish TS field and create a fixed level of detail calculation on it. So then we're saying for each of those registration numbers, when was the advert first published? So we want the minimum published TS and we want to group it by the registration number. There we go. That's all loading. Taking a little while today. Tableau Prep's a little bit slow. I think I've had it open for a bit too long today. Probably need to close it, let it refresh itself. There we go. So that's what we get there. And then we just want to filter based on that calculation that we've just made. So mine's called first posted, and we want that to be equal to the published TS. And that just filters our dataset down to any time that the advert was reposted more than once. We only want to keep the first time it was posted there, so that we can calculate the days to sell. And so we first of all need to make sure that our data type of that sale date field is updated to be a date. So we can just go into the data type menu up here, change it from a string to a date, and Tableau is very good at picking that up, making it a date. And then we can calculate our days to sell as the date diff between the first posted and the sale date. Now we're ready to do our aggregation, so we group by our dealership ID, we take the average of the days to sell, and then we're going to round that up to the nearest whole number. So in order to round it up to the nearest whole number, we use the ceiling function on that days to sell that we've just performed the average for, and we can then get rid of the original field, and we are left with our output. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this challenge, and thanks so much again to Abhishek for creating it.